Hey there, pasta people, your perfect nightmare here. So I'd like to start off this birthday pasta by wishing a happy birthday to my good friend BSting. Link to her channel will be in the description. It's going to be a gaming channel. She doesn't have any videos uploaded yet because she's writing exams right now, but she will in the next couple months. Check her out, they're going to be amazing. Anyways, reason I'm recording this pasta in particular is because BSting is an avid Whovian. For those of you who don't know what a Whovian is, it's someone who is a Doctor Who fan and can also be used as a term for the entire fan base. I'm not so much a Whovian, but BSting's been trying to convert me to Whovianism for years. I've been resisting, partly out of spite and partly because I'm just not that into Doctor Who. I have seen a couple episodes, because she bribed me with cookies. Don't judge me. So, they were actually pretty decent, and I decided for her birthday I would record this Doctor Who based creepypasta for her. BSting, happy birthday, I love you dearly and I hope you enjoy this pasta. Everyone else, whether you're a Whovian or a hooligan, I know those terms because of her, I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you guys Friday. I'm sure you all know about the television show Doctor Who, right? Our favorite British science fiction television series? The one about the time-traveling alien who transforms into a new person every time he's dying or mortally wounded? Well, there is some dark truth behind it. There was once a 13-year-old boy named Jonathan Smith who attended an all-boys school in London during the 1940s. Due to his learning disability, he was often scolded by the teachers and bullied by his classmates. He was a troubled young boy, always daydreaming, looking out the window in a sullen or anxious manner. When he was walking home from school one day, he was mugged by some of his classmates. They beat him up badly, and he was left unconscious in the street. When he awoke a few hours later, he noticed several artifacts of his were stolen. This included his backpack and his shoes. He noticed that while he was out, he gained cuts and scrapes on his arms and legs, as well as a black eye and a gruesome bloody nose. When he got back home, his mother scolded him for getting in a fight, and refused to listen when he attempted to explain that he was mugged. His father had been killed while fighting in World War II, so he only had one parent. That night, Jonathan changed from a depressed, tormented boy into a cold-blooded killer. The next day, one of the boys who had mugged him was found dead in his room, his throat slit. Jonathan was tired of being bullied and beaten by all around him, so he decided that would happen no more. He would kill all who had tormented him. He decided not to go to school that day. He'd go to the park instead, by himself. Surprisingly, the boys from school showed up at the park, and hearing about their friend's murder, they assumed it was him who was the killer. They tried to kill Jonathan, strangling and choking him, but he fought back, and the two boys were found dead hours later, suffering the same fate as the previous boy who had been murdered. When Jonathan faked being sick to avoid going to school the next day, his teacher, Mr. Hartnell, was suspicious of him. He decided to go to his house and talk to his mother. When Mr. Hartnell decided to call the police on him, Jonathan shot and killed Mr. Hartnell and his own mother. He then locked their bodies in a trunk down in the cellar of the house. He decided to run away from his deserted home and live on the streets where no one would find him. He made his own secret hideout in a caravan underneath the streets of London that he discovered while hiding in the sewers from policemen. He got to enjoy killing, so he killed anyone he saw in the streets of London at night. He killed innocents, helpless innocents, just because his tormented psyche told him so. Eventually, the police discovered where Jonathan was hiding, and he was arrested and taken to an insane asylum. In the asylum, he often fell asleep and imagined himself to be on another planet. He called this imaginary planet Gallifrey, and he believed the inhabitants of Gallifrey could change their appearance whenever they were mortally wounded. This was based on how sometimes he would disguise himself when the police came looking for him. In his imagination, he took on the form of Mr. Hartnell, and believed that he had taken Hartnell's soul when he had killed him. He believed all his victims' souls were inside his body, and that whenever he died in his imaginary world, then he would take the form of one of his victims. 14 years later, in 1962, a television producer named Sidney Newman visited the asylum where Jonathan was imprisoned to help the children. Newman was the creator of Doctor Who, and he would create the show 1 year later. He knew that Jonathan had a good imagination, so he asked him if he would help coming up with the show. Newman thought of the concept of time traveling in the show, and also the concept of the TARDIS as a time machine. It was Jonathan who invented the concept of Gallifrey and the Time Lords. The first actor who played the Doctor in 1963 was William Hartnell, who bore a resemblance of Mr. Hartnell. Jonathan wanted the Doctor to be just like the ones in his imagination, to look like his victims. He was based on Jonathan's personality before he became a killer. The concept of regeneration when a Time Lord changed their appearance would not be introduced until 1966. By that time he was still helping Newman come up with ideas for the show. Every actor that played the Doctor was supposed to look like one of Jonathan's victims, and Newman incorporated these ideas into the show without ever knowing what Jonathan had been thinking. The Daleks were based on the boys who bullied Jonathan, and their toilet plunger-like guns were based on the time when Jonathan was at school, and his bullies chased him with a toilet plunger to make other children laugh. Also, the Doctor's alias, John Smith, is a reference to Jonathan Smith. Jonathan committed suicide in 1974, but Newman kept using all of his ideas. He kept Jonathan's sketches in a folder, and used them for Doctor Who episodes in the present day. Newman is deceased, but his folders with Jonathan's sketches are still used, and each and every reincarnation of the Doctor is still based on one of Jonathan's victims.